It's pretty crazy being halfway around the world in Norway and literally remote playing to my PlayStation 5 back in Seattle. And this is so cool. It's like magic. It's like crazy. Hey guys, MetalJesus here, and well, I got the PlayStation Portal, and you're probably like me. When this was announced, you're like, this is dumb, right? I think most of us wanted a, brand new Vita, or maybe the successor to the PSP, basically a dedicated handheld device. And instead we got a remote play device, which when this was announced and when it came out, I pretty much ignored it. I was like, this isn't for me. What do I care, right? And then two things happened. And the first one being, my wife came to me and she's like, hey, it'd be really cool if you moved the PlayStation 5 from down in the basement down here up into the living room. So it'd be easier for her to play her games and do all that. And the second thing that got me thinking, I started following some of the firmware updates that were released for this. And Sony actually addressed several of the common complaints with this. And so I made the leap. I actually bought one and I've been using it for a while now. So in this video, I'm going to give you all of my thoughts and some of the things that maybe still need a little bit of work. Let's take a look. I've had the PlayStation Portal for a couple weeks now and have put probably maybe 20 plus hours into using it in various scenarios. And I've come up with some pros and cons. And I will say right off the bat, I am very happy with this purchase. But as with a lot of things, it's not perfect. And this video is going to be pretty interesting because, you're probably like me, you watched early reviews of this. But the good thing is that Sony has continued to release firmware for it and has addressed many of the things that people initially weren't very happy with. Now, the first pro is obviously that this allows you to remotely play your PlayStation 5 games. Duh, right? That's why you would buy this. But it also allows you to play your PlayStation 4 games, right? Because the PS5 is backwards compatible. And the only thing I would say to that is that it really is best for people who probably have a digital collection, because keep in mind, if you're like me, you've got a lot of physical discs. Well, do you really want to have to run over to the console and swap games out? You might want to do that here and there, but in using this over the past couple weeks, I've it is much nicer to have digital copies of games. That way I can swap back and forth between them, especially if I'm in a hotel room, right? I don't have to text my wife to put in a game. So just be aware that that's definitely a pro, but also a con. And I have to say, it feels great in your hands. It's not heavy at all, and it's very comfortable. Again, when you see something this large, about the size of a Steam Deck, you're like, man, is this going to be really heavy? No, it's not at all. And that 8-inch LCD screen, it looks great. I was very impressed with this. Again, they could have easily put a cheap screen on here, but no, it actually looks really good. And thankfully, it's super easy to set up. There's really not much to do here. You just have to pair it with your PlayStation 5 and your PlayStation account, and you're really just up and going in a matter of minutes. And one of the really big selling points of this is that you're getting real PlayStation 5 controllers, which are excellent. A lot of people love the PlayStation 5 controllers, myself included. And so there's a built onto the side of this. So in addition to that, you also get that HD rumble, that haptic feedback that you would expect built into this device. Now, initially when this launched, Sony really advertised this as a device that you would use in your home. They basically said, hey, you're going to need to be on the same Wi-Fi network in order for this to work. However, I think the feedback that they got was that this is a huge missed opportunity to only be able to use this in your house. And so through several firmwares over the last year, they've actually added the ability to connect to public Wi-Fi. And specifically, it now supports those Wi-Fi logins where it'll ask you for your name. Like if you're at a Starbucks or if you're in a hotel, it might ask you for your last name and your room number. It now supports that, which is really cool. So for instance, I tried this at my local Starbucks. I took it in there, sat down, and essentially what happens is that You connect to the Starbucks Wi-Fi, and then it prompts you to scan a code with your phone or your tablet or whatever you brought with you. And that agrees to Starbucks privacy statement. And then you're on. And you can connect to your PlayStation 5 at home pretty much anywhere in the world. It's pretty wild. And so I was playing a bunch of games sitting at a Starbucks. It was really cool. I was like, okay, this is how it should be, right? And yeah, it worked really well. And so this is one of the big things that really convinced me to buy this, because now suddenly I can be, like I said, anywhere in the world. I can be sitting in a hotel room halfway across the world playing with my PlayStation 5 games remotely. Again, that's just awesome, right? Also, through firmware, they added support for 5G networks for better response, which is important because now we need to get to latency, right? And the thing is, this is technically running on your PlayStation 5 back home, and it's just sending back and forth the display to that portal. But honestly, it's not that bad at all, especially in my testing. Now, I recently got a router upgrade in my house. And so in my setup, my PlayStation 5 is down in my game room. It's connected via Wi-Fi. And then obviously the portal is also connected via Wi-Fi. So there's a lot of potential there for latency, and there is some. You will feel it for sure. But I found actually that most of these games are completely playable. They work fine and across many different genres that I would normally be very concerned about latency. You know, first-person shooters, some racing games, some arcade games, things like that. Again, and I want to be clear here, it's not the same. Like, I've read some reviews of people like, I can't tell the difference. You can tell the difference. In my opinion, you can definitely tell the difference. However, I think it's still very playable. And you could get better performance if you plug your PlayStation 5 into Ethernet, right? So you run an Ethernet cable to your router directly instead of using Wi-Fi. And I think you would get a lot of, better performance in that scenario. So that's something to consider, especially if you plan on using this a lot. I'm actually considering it myself. A couple other things that I like, including the speakers. They are on the top there, and I found them to be nice and loud. As a matter of fact, depending on where you are, you might actually have to turn the volume down quite a bit. But I didn't find them to be tinny at all. There's actually a nice, I would say, balance of both high end and low end. So yeah, that was a nice surprise. And it doesn't require you to have PlayStation Plus or Premium to use it. It'll pretty much just stream all of your games that you own on your PlayStation 5. So that's really nice. As far as battery life, I have been getting about 5, 6, 7 hours sometimes. It really depends on how bright you have that screen. When you first get it out of the box, the brightness is cranked completely up, and it looks great, like I said, but it is going to cut into your battery life. And so if you are very concerned about that, knock it down to like 50%, something like that, and you'll notice that your battery life will go up quite a bit. And then they made a really interesting choice in regards to headphones. So this is so Sony. So it supports a wired phone jack. So that's cool, right? Because I've got a really nice pair of wired headphones. However, I think a lot of people kind of were hoping and are moving towards Bluetooth headphones. And I have a nice pair of those as well. Well, this does not support it at all. Unfortunately, you're basically just going to have to use wired headphones, or they support their proprietary PlayStation Link protocol. This is something that I hadn't paid attention to at all. I guess it just came out a couple years ago. So basically the PlayStation branded headphones, I guess, will work with this, but not other brands of Bluetooth headphones. It's kind of weird that they did that. I'm not entirely sure if maybe that's based on trying to get the best battery life or something. I have no idea. Some of the cons that are associated with this is that it can take a while sometimes to wake up your PlayStation 5. So your PlayStation 5 needs to be in rest mode, and it's not a big deal, but you'll notice whenever you first launch it and try to connect to your PlayStation 5 that Essentially, it's got to wake it up, and it takes, probably, I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds, something like that. Not a big deal, but I wanted to mention it. Another thing is that it only works with PlayStation 5 games. You can't stream Netflix. You can't even watch your own Blu-ray movies. It's probably something to do with licensing, I'm sure, and how that all works out. But just be aware, this only supports games. And then the final thing I want to mention is that, you know what? You can already do this with your smartphone or your tablet, because there is a free app that is available to you to basically remote play, from your PlayStation 5. And the thing is that that's legit, and I've messed around with that. However, in my case, the Portal screen is way bigger than my iPhone 14 Pro Max. And so having the largest screen actually is really important to me. It's also way easier to use because you have those controllers built onto the sides. For one, I don't like using touch screens to play games, those virtual controls. They're a nightmare. And yes, you can pair a Bluetooth controller to your phone or tablet and basically have a very similar experience, maybe even a little bit better experience on, like say a really large iPad. But I do have to say that just the ease of use with the Portal, in my opinion, is worth it. Especially now that the price has gone down a little bit. I got mine for a little under $200 from Amazon, and that felt appropriate for what this does. It's just nice having a device like this that I can throw in my bag, pull it out really quickly, get online, play my PlayStation 5. I don't have to mess with trying to carry an extra controller with it. It's already built in, and it works really well. And so that, guys, is why I ended up getting a PlayStation Portal. Something that I wasn't really planning on buying, but now that I have it, I kind of like it. Do I wish Sony would have made the successor to the PSP or Vita with a dedicated handheld? Yes, of course. Maybe in the future they will. I have no idea. But in the meantime, this will get some use in my house. And yeah, I'm enjoying it quite a bit. But I would love to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Did I waste my money, or are you considering getting one too? Let me know. All right, guys, as always, I want to thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing, and take care.